afternoon. Welcome to the debate at Dakotafest 2012. I'm Jerry Oster from 570 WNAX Radio in Yankton. Welcome to the SDSU tent here at Dakotafest as we begin this debate season between our two candidates. We've had a couple of rules to talk about here, and I believe you folks have taken pretty good care of that in terms of signs and the order, and we appreciate that. We have a good crowd here. So first of all, as I said, welcome. Let everybody know you're here. Hello. I think I'm sitting here by myself, but we do want to get this campaign underway. We have our two candidates. They're both going to get an opening statement, and then we'll get a close, and we'll get to your questions as quickly as we can, and as many as we can. And again, there's folks circulating, picking up your questions, and look for them. Write down your question, form of a question, please, and we'll get to those as we can. Introduce our two candidates. On my right is Democrat Matt Varilek. Matt. To my left, Congresswoman Kristi Noem. Congresswoman. And with that, thank you, Congresswoman. You have the opening statement here this afternoon, so welcome to Dakotafest.
Well, thank you, Jerry, and I appreciate it. It's a good opportunity to be here. And I want to welcome everybody who's listening on the radio, too, and for listening in. We've got some important ag policy to discuss today, and that will help answer some of the uncertainty that our producers are facing as well. So the corn growers, thank you for hosting. I appreciate that. And Matt, for being here and for having a discussion on what concerns all of our farmers and ranchers across this great state. Jerry, thanks for always coming and keeping the trains running on time. I appreciate that very much. It's not everybody who will come and sit up in between a good debate and put themselves right in the middle of all of it. So I thank you for that. You know, most of you probably know my story, but you know, I grew up in the northeastern corner of South Dakota in Hamlin County, and ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to grow up and farm with my dad. He was somebody that I admired and looked up to, and I love farming and ranching, and you know, cattle hold a special place in my heart. So when I went to college, my dad was killed in an accident on our farm, and that changed everything for our family. I came home and helped our family pull together to keep the family business going and operating and do what most South Dakota families do in times of crisis as they come together to get the job done. At that point in time, our family was hit with the death taxes, and it was devastating for us. I had a tough time in my head reconciling the fact that we had this tragedy happen to our family, losing my dad at 49 years old, and then being faced with owing the federal government tens of thousands of dollars that was going to make it difficult for our family farm to survive. That's when I first got interested in government and politics. I knew that at that point that we needed people making the laws in this country and setting regulations that understood what it's like to be an everyday person, trying to run a farm, trying to run a business, that knew how that translated back into everyday life and how hard it can be when they simply don't understand our way of life. So I started to get involved. We, at that point in time, had to decide to pay off those taxes if we were going to take out a loan to do that or sell land. You know, my dad had something that he said all the time. He said, you know, Kristi, you don't ever sell land because God isn't making any more land. And so we chose not to do that. Instead, we took out a loan, but for 10 years it made it very difficult for us to cash flow. And so I understand how policy can impact you and make your business plan very difficult to survive. I got involved, started to serve in different areas, on different boards and commissions, and served in the state legislature for 4 years. And when I was elected to Congress in 2010, I went there to work for you with a focus on making sure that we got this country back on track. Folks, I'll tell you, Washington, D.C. is a wreck. It is a wreck. They do not know how to do things correctly, on time, and for the right reasons. I've been focused on cutting spending, which we've had small victories in. The last 2 years that I've been there have been the first 2 years since World War II that we've actually cut discretionary spending. But we're not even close to getting the job done. We've been trying to repeal Obamacare, recognizing that it contains dozens of taxes that are going to hit everybody in this country, including the poor and the middle class. We've been focused on making sure that we relieve the stranglehold of regulations that impacts everybody in this country, and making sure that this government is more efficient, more effective, and that it's more accountable to the hardworking taxpayers who go forward and make sure that they're sending in their dollars to keep this government running that continuously wastes it. I will tell you that I am convinced of this, that this Obama administration has been hostile towards agriculture. It's been evidenced through their policies and their regulations that have come out ever since I've been there and years before that. You know that I've championed the EPA's when they were working on trying to regulate farm dust, and I've championed the repeal of that, trying to keep them from doing that. The Department of Labor came out with a stipulation trying to keep our kids from working on our family farms with us. They've also said that they have jurisdiction over our ditches and our ponds out here. We've also said that we've seen over other states aerial surveillance that the EPA is using to enforce the Clean Water Act. All of these are very detrimental to our farms and our family farms and businesses that we're trying to survive. You'll see in this discussion two very different viewpoints of the role of the federal government in your life. My opponent wants to give the government more control over your farm. My opponent wants to give the government more control over your businesses. He wants to tax you more. He wants to spend more. He wants more EPA, and he wants more of a government-controlled society. I believe that you make better decisions than the federal government does. And I believe that we're going to see those differences today. Washington takes too much of your money and wastes it. And we need to hold them much more accountable to this. Time to stop?
That's it. Okay,
right.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Statement. Thank you. Thank you. Matt Varilek, welcome to Dakotafest. Your opening statement.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jerry. Thanks to all the organizers, WNAX, SDSU, South Dakota Corn, all the media outlets that are involved here. Thanks also to my opponent. I'm guessing we're going to disagree on a few things in this campaign, but we can agree this is a great opportunity for the people of South Dakota to get information about where we stand on the issues, and I appreciate you participating. Thanks to the audience, whether you're wearing one of my opponent's t-shirts or mine, I appreciate the fact that everyone is engaged in our democracy that we all cherish, so thank you. I wanted to start by introducing myself, and my family as well. I think my mom is out there somewhere, so if you could wave, Mom. There she is, my mom, and my mother-in-law as well. I'm married to Maggie, and she's not able to be here today, but she's from Mitchell originally. And Maggie and I are the proud parents of two adorable little girls. Willa is our 3-year-old, and May is our 21-month-old. They're supporting me right now by napping, hopefully. For my part, I come from Yankton and Tabor originally, and I come from a family that never had much money, and so consequently I've been working my whole life. And originally that meant doing things like delivering the local newspaper, and washing dishes at the local steakhouse, flipping burgers at the local burger joint. And when it comes to ag issues, I'm proud to say I picked a lot of rocks in my day. And I walked a lot of bean fields, and I also rode the bean bar back in the days before Roundup Ready beans, when they let kids handle herbicides with glorified squirt guns. The good old days, right? Well, because of those jobs and others that I've had, like working with Senator Tim Johnson on economic development, for example, I've learned the value of hard work, and I'm in this race to be a voice for middle-class and hard-working South Dakotans. Because I share your frustration that Washington is rigged to serve someone else, the wealthiest individuals and the biggest corporations. We need more members of Congress focused on serving regular folks like we have here in South Dakota. The other main reason I'm in this race is because I share your frustration with the my way or the highway attitude that's so common in Washington these days, and the lack of progress that delivers for us. I believe we need a more constructive approach to politics, where we are willing to work with others for the sake of progress, for the sake of results on the issues that you all care about, whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent. And we are seeing that dysfunction hit home right now here in South Dakota in a way we haven't seen it before, and that relates, of course, to the Farm Bill. Now, a Farm Bill is always important for South Dakota because we are an ag state. It's especially important now because we've got a drought going on. Fortunately, the United States Senate passed a Farm Bill that would reduce the deficit but also keep a strong safety net in place and do other important things, passed on a bipartisan basis with support from Senators Johnson and Thune. The House has not done the same. Not only have they not passed a farm bill, they haven't even voted on a farm bill. And that's because the House leadership chooses not to bring it up, and our one member of Congress is a member of that House leadership. Now, when she was elected to be the head of that freshman class of Tea Party members and be their representative in the leadership, she said that would give us more clout with John Boehner and more clout with those members. But in fact, it's been the opposite. She can't convince John Boehner to bring the bill for a vote. She hasn't been able to convince many of the fellow Tea Partiers to support this farm bill, many of whom view it as welfare for farmers because they don't understand South Dakota agriculture. And I can't help but think we might not be in this situation if my opponent had been more focused on ag issues longer ago instead of skipping the vast majority of ag committee meetings. Now, after a long period of no comment on this topic, my opponent did eventually address the issue and said she had other important meetings to go to. So I went back and looked at other members of Congress from South Dakota to see if they had the same problem, since they all had committee meetings to go to and so forth as well. I printed out the transcripts of everything that some of our previous members said. Stephanie Herseth-Sandlin, John Thune, Bill Janklow. When I printed out the transcript of everything Stephanie said, it was a thick stack of papers because she went often and she spoke up and she was aggressive for us. Same thing for John Thune. When I printed out the transcript for Bill Janklow, it was a really thick stack of paper because Bill Janklow talked a lot and he was aggressive. In fact, he filled up 52 pages. When I printed out the transcript from my opponent and all the things she'd said on the Ag Committee since she got there, you know how much it took up? This one page. And I don't know if you can see, but it only fills up half the page. That's a stark contrast, and no matter what the excuses are, the bottom line is we're not getting the kind of hardworking, focused representation that we've had in the past. We got to do better. I will do better, and that's why I'm in this race. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to questions.